Now, here's the catch. One big decision isn't about doing what 99% won't. It's about making hundreds of small decisions daily. It's saying yes to the gym when your bed is calling you. It's saying no to the junk food when it's right in front of you. It's choosing to work on your side hustle instead of watching another episode of your favorite show. Most people underestimate the power of small decisions. They think big changes come from big actions. But the reality is, big things happen from little actions done repeatedly. That's why the 1% rule would work. It's not heroic effort from time to time. It's constant effort all the time. Let me illustrate. Imagine two individuals beginning a race at the same time. One individual takes 1 step per day. The other individual takes 2 steps per day. Initially, you wouldn't be able to tell that much difference. But in a year's time, that second person has gone miles ahead, not because they ran quicker once, but because they were doing just a bit more each and every day. This is where everyone fails. They don't experience immediate results, so they give up. They search for gold, and when they don't get it after a week, they give up digging. They don't know that the gold was only inches away. The 1% continue digging. They believe in the existence of the gold, even though they can't see it yet. And here's the bitter truth. To do what 99% won't, you must think differently. You must condition your mind to find opportunity where others find difficulty. You must find value in the grind, the lesson in the loss, the growth in the pain. The 99% shun pain at all expense. The 1% utilize it as fuel. They recognize that pain is a teacher. It brings out your weaknesses so that you may build them up. It tells you what you're capable of. It eliminates excuses and makes you confront the reality about yourself. You have to put down the running from the difficult. Stop wishing for an easier world and begin becoming stronger. Stop waiting for someone to come rescue you and begin rescuing yourself. Because here's the deal. Nobody is coming. Not your boss, not your parents, not your friends. It's you, always you. The 1% rule is being the owner of your outcomes. All of them. No excuses, no blame. If you lose, it's your fault. If you win, it's because you deserve it. That's the type of mentality that differs between the average and the best. The 1% rule is not sexy. It's not glamorous. It's not about being seen on social media or pursuing quick victories. It's about the dull, unglamorous, mundane work that no one applauds. It's about being present when no one is looking. It's about working on your craft long after the hype disappears and the inspiration wanes. The 99% live for the applause. They require the likes, the approval, the constant pat on the back to continue. The 1%, they applaud for themselves. They're pleased with the process, not merely the outcome. They understand that success is not a one enormous moment. It's thousands of small victories piled on top of one another until the day when people label it overnight success. You need to habituate yourself to enjoy the process. That is the key. You can't love the concept of being fit. You need to love the sweat. You can't love the concept of being wealthy. You need to love the drudgery of creating something from nothing. You can't love the concept of being respected. You need to love the discipline that commands respect. The 1% wake up before they have to. They read when they'd rather be watching TV. They speak out when they're afraid. They risk their reputation. They invest in themselves with no promise of payback. They do what's uncomfortable because they understand that's where the growth is. The 99% go the way of least resistance. They forgo the workout because it's raining. They drop the business because it's not expanding quickly enough. They settle in the relationship because they're afraid of being alone. They opt for comfort today at the expense of regret tomorrow. But here's the ugly truth. While regret will cause them much more pain than discipline ever will, discipline hurts for a moment. Regret gnaws away at you for a lifetime. You never encounter someone in the twilight years of their life saying, "I wish I watched more television," or "I'm so glad that I never took the leap." No, they'll say, "I wish I had tried. I wish I went for it. I wish I gave it my all." That's the hurt the 1% sidestep. The hurt of what if. They'd sooner endure the agony of effort the agony of risk, the agony of failure, than the agony of never knowing what might have been. What 99% won't do is hold yourself up to a higher standard, even when nobody's there to hold you accountable. It's telling yourself the truth, even when it stings. It's not accepting good enough when you know you can do better. You understand, the 1% rule has nothing to do with comparing yourself. It's all about competing with yesterday's version of you. It's asking the question, did I give more today than I gave yesterday? If the answer is a yes, you're good. If the answer is a no, you know exactly what needs to shift. This is why so many don't do this. It's hard to look in the mirror and tell yourself you're not giving it everything. It's hard to eliminate the habits, the distractions, the excuses that make life comfortable, but keep you from moving forward. But that is the work. That is the ascent. And let me tell you something. When you begin to live on the 1% rule, you will be noticed. Not because you're attempting to, but because the world is just full of individuals living day to day. You will enter a room, and individuals will see the manner in which you present yourself. They'll perceive the concentration in your eyes, the discipline in your routines, the confidence in your existence. That's what happens when you do what 99% won't. If you wish to become part of the 1%, you need to decide today, not tomorrow, not next week, today, because the longer you wait, the more you condition yourself to put things off. The longer you put it off, the more you show yourself that your dreams can be deferred, and each day they are deferred, they get killed a little bit. It is not about being perfect, it is about being relentless. The 99% wait for everything to fall into place before they begin. They say, I will begin when I have more time, more money, more confidence. But the day never arrives, and they know it in their bones. The 1%, they begin messy, they begin broke, they begin afraid, they begin inconveniently. They begin because they know that action clarifies, not the other thing. You're not going to wake up one morning suddenly fearless, disciplined, and laser-focused. Read that again. You're not going to wake up one morning magically fearless, disciplined, and laser-focused. Readiness is constructed through action. Courage is constructed through action. Confidence is constructed through action. Doing what 99% won't is breaking through the point when most give up. Everyone is motivated initially. The initial days of a new objective are a breeze. You're exhilarated, driven, and hopeful. But then there's the wall. The wall is when it doesn't feel like fun anymore. The wall is when things slow down. The wall is when you begin questioning why you even began to begin with. That's the point that determines everything. The 99% view the wall and turn around. They rationalize that it's too difficult, that perhaps it was not destined to be. The 1%, they scale the wall. They drive through the pain, the tedium, the uncertainty, because they understand that beyond the wall lies all that they've struggled towards. And here's the thing that most people don't get. Each time you bust through that wall, you become stronger, not only physically, but mentally, emotionally, spiritually. The wall seems less daunting the next time. You begin trusting yourself. You begin believing you can do more than you believed. That's the true prize. But taking action that 99% won't also involve saying no to stuff most people say yes to mindlessly. The 1% refuse the distractions that rob their focus. They refuse the people who suck their energy. They refuse the opportunities that aren't in alignment with their vision. Even if those opportunities appear great on paper, you must defend your energy like it is gold, because it is. Each yes you say to something irrelevant is a no to the relevant thing. The 99% scatter energy here and there and are surprised nothing changes. The 1% focus their energy into things that matter most, and they win big as a result. Another truth, the 1% rule is isolated. Not everyone will get why you're staying late while they're out at the club. Not everyone will get why you're waking up at dawn while they're still in bed. Not everyone will get why you're investing money in books, classes, or coaches instead of flights to Hawaii and gadgets. And that's all right. They're not meant to get it. They're not on your journey. You need to be comfortable with being misunderstood. You need to be comfortable with people questioning you, criticizing you, even ridiculing you. The 99% want validation. The 1% want results. And this is the payoff. When you take a stand to do something that 99% will not, you build a life 99% cannot. You'll have choices they'll never have, liberty they'll never enjoy, confidence they'll never possess. Not that you're superior to them, but because you dared to pay the price they would not. So let me ask you this. Will you exchange short-term comfort for long-term greatness? Will you be uncomfortable today so you can be unstoppable tomorrow? Will you do what 99% won't so you can live like 99% can't? If you desire to live on the 1% principle, you must know something. Success is not constructed in spurts, it's constructed in bricks. Each decision you make is a brick. Some lay a brick sporadically. The 1% lay bricks daily, without deviation. Most people wait until they feel like it to lay a brick. The 1% lay the brick, whether they're tired, unmotivated, or even doubting themselves, because they know the wall they're building is worth it. The 99% confuse intensity with consistency. They think going all out for a week will change everything. They sprint for 7 days and burn out by day 8. The 1% understand that a slow, steady pace beats a short burst every time. They know that showing up at 70% every single day is more powerful than showing up at 110% once in a while. This is where patience enters. Patience is one of the least valued characteristics of the 1%. In an era of instant gratification, patience seems unnatural, yet the 1% are willing to wait for the reward because they know that progress takes time. They're not planting seeds today and then uprooting them tomorrow to check if they've sprouted. They plant, they water, they tend, and they have faith in the process. And here's something you need to listen to. The 1% rule is not solely about working harder. It's about smarter working. Getting things done that 99% won't. Doesn't mean working yourself to the bone with busy work. It means tackling the hard, painful tasks that actually move the needle forward. It means spending less time appearing busy and more time being productive. The 99% waste hours, crafting the perfect to-do list. The 1% waste hours doing. The 99% stay in research mode, telling themselves they're moving forward. The 1% take the first step, no matter how bad it might be, and learn as they go. The 1% rule also requires toughness, the capacity to be hit and continue moving. The 99% personalize failure, they allow it to define them. The 1% recognize failure as feedback. They know that the quicker you fail, the quicker you learn, and the quicker you can get back into the game with superior tools, superior knowledge, and a superior mindset. Consider this. All the people you look up to, all the people who have done something great, have lived by the 1% rule, though they never said so themselves. They've worked when nobody else would work. They've dealt with rejection, ridicule, and resistance. They've gotten back up more often than they can count, and they've refused to give up until the dream in their mind became the life in their hands. But this is the thing that most people miss. The 1% rule is constructed in secret and revealed to the public. The only thing that people will see is the end product, the change, the success, the victory. They won't see you lying in bed all night, acquiring a skill as the rest of the world parties. They won't see you waking up early before the rest of the world to start work. They will not notice the sacrifices you made, and they will not appreciate them. You cannot do this for approval. You cannot do it for validation. You must do it for yourself, because the moment you attach your effort to what other people will think, you've lost power. The 1% understand that self-respect is born from keeping promises to themselves. When you speak and then act on something like waking up early, and you do it, you create self-trust. When you speak and then act on something like exercising, and you go, you create self-trust. When you speak and then act on something like completing that project, and you complete it, you create self-trust. And that self-trust is where confidence is built. The 99% break promises themselves every day and then can't understand why they don't trust themselves. You can't deceive yourself repeatedly and wait for confidence to pop out of thin air. Confidence is won, and the money is discipline. Doing what 99% won't means establishing the daily habits that nobody sees, but everybody notices in the long term. It means creating habits so powerful that they propel you through the days you lack energy. It means being so consistent that abandoning your progress isn't even a thought in your head. And here's the reality. The 1% rule is not for everybody. The majority will turn it down because it's difficult, because it requires too much, because it requires sacrifices they don't want to give. And that's fine. The world will never have more players than spectators. But if you're listening to this and something inside of you whispers, "This is me, this is who I want to be," then know your time is now. The 1% rule has nothing to do with luck. It doesn't depend on the right circumstance or being born into the right situation. It has everything to do with making a choice every single day to do what someone else won't. That's the difference. Not talent, not connections, not timing. Choice. Each morning the alarm blares, you have the option. Roll over and cower before the day, or rise up and meet it full on. The 99% hit the snooze button. The 1% hit the floor running. The majority of individuals believe that opportunity knocks once or twice in a lifetime. The 1% understand that opportunity knocks every day. However, it does not appear like opportunity. It appears like hard work, like something that is unpleasant, like something that you would prefer to avoid. That is why 99% miss it. They are waiting for it to appear in the attire of comfort and convenience. The 1% open the door regardless of how it presents itself. Being what 99% won't means being the one who does the tedious work, the mundane work, the work that does not receive likes or shares or applause. It's working when your buddies are watching TV. It's staying on an extra hour at your business after a complete day at your day job. It's passing up short-term gratification because you're pursuing long-term greatness. You can't anticipate achieving the fruits of the 1% with the routines of the 99%. If your daily routines align with the crowd, your outcomes will be identical with the crowd. And here's reality. The crowd is broke, distracted, and unfulfilled. Why would you need their outcomes? You need to distance yourself. You need to make choices that 99% of the population will never get. The 99% shun discomfort like it's the devil. The 1% charge towards it because they understand discomfort is the gym where you grow. Each time you enter a difficult situation, you're lifting mental weights, you're building strength, you're conditioning yourself to carry more tomorrow than you can today. You wish to be among the 1%. You must endure people. You must press on after they tire. Not for a day, not for a week, for years. The 1% are not always the swiftest or the most capable, but they are nearly always the ones remaining standing when everybody else has thrown in the towel. And the truth is, nobody wants to admit. People tend to quit just before the breakthrough. They feel exhausted. They become demotivated. They think it's not worth the effort, and that's where they quit. But what they don't know is they were minutes away from victory. The 1% just hang in there a little bit longer, push a little bit harder, and that's why they succeed. Being part of the 1% means not letting feelings drive you. The 99% only get things done when they are in the mood. The 1% get things done regardless of their mood. Motivation is great, but you can't count on it. Discipline is what carries you forward. The 1% don't get inspired and then take action. They move first, and inspiration catches up with them. The 1% rule is a promise you make to yourself. It's a promise to never stop when it's easier to quit, to never stop when it's uncomfortable, to never stop when no one is believing in you, to keep going because you promised yourself that you would. And I always keep my promises. That's why it works. Not the grand gestures, but the personal, quiet choices to keep appearing. And keep in mind, no one is born the 1%. Everyone begins at 0. The only reason the 1% exist is because they made decisions that gradually drew them away from the 99%. Each time they chose to do something difficult rather than easy, they moved closer to the top. Each time they made a move, rather than procrastinated, they distanced themselves. Each time they continued, rather than quit, they created the gap. The 1% rule requires something that most will never deliver: ultimate responsibility. The 99% seek someone to blame. They blame the economy, their manager, their environment, their lack of resources. The 1% take it all. They say it may not be my fault, but it is my responsibility to fix. That is why they get ahead, and everyone else remains in stagnation. When you claim your full responsibility, you reclaim your power. As long as you're blaming, you remain powerless. You're telling yourself, I can't do it because something outside of me needs to happen first. But the 1% understand that the moment that you commit to taking action, regardless of the circumstances, is the moment everything starts to change. The 1% rule also entails you do the stuff nobody gets to see. You're not seeking claps. You're seeking forward momentum. You practice when nobody is observing. You rehearse in an empty space. You write, you prepare, you plan, not for likes, but for expertise. And when you finally shine in the limelight, people will say you are lucky, unaware of all the invisible hours you've worked. Most folks are living for the weekend. The 1% are living for the work. They're not clocking out in their minds at 5 p.m. They're not waiting to tick off the days until Friday. They're counting up the reps, the lessons, the moves they've made towards their vision. And here's something you have to get. The 1% rule isn't beating other individuals. It's beating your previous self. You should be wondering each day if you're stronger than you were the day before yesterday. If you're sharper, more disciplined, more focused. If yes is the answer, you're winning, even if nobody notices yet. The 99% need instant gratification. They need instant payoff. If they don't see progress in a week, they're out. But the 1% play the long game. The 1% know that large results are created through small, persistent actions compounded over time. You can't microwave success. You must slow cook it. And during that slow simmering, you're going to be tested. Not once, not twice. Repeatedly, life will send setbacks, distractions, and self-doubt your way. It will tell you in your ear, you're not good enough. This isn't worth it. Just quit. That's the 99% voice. The 1% voice responds, I hear you, but I'm going anyway. Most people believe the difficult part is beginning. It is not. The difficult part is keeping it up when it's no longer cool. The 1% rule is about developing a mechanism to keep going when the initial high wears off. When you're tired, sore, uninspired, you keep going. That's how you differentiate yourself. Doing what 99% won't do takes sacrificing now or down the line. It means you may miss some parties. You may need to work weekends. You may need to say no to things that would be fun today in order to create something amazing tomorrow. And here's the thing, that sacrifice does not feel good at the moment, but it feels amazing when the reward is received. It is like planting seeds. You don't harvest fruit on the day you plant. You water, you care for it, you shelter the ground, and you wait. The 99% uproot the seed to see if it's growing. The 1% believe in the process. They continue to show up with the knowledge that the harvest is ahead. And when that harvest arrives, when you've been patient, disciplined, and consistent, that's when life shifts. That's when you live the life that others can only dream about. Not because you were lucky, but because you put in the work that they wouldn't. If you've ever asked yourself the true tale behind this channel, how I moved from struggling and lost to inspiring thousands of individuals every single day, now you get to hear it. I've put out my entire story, all the highs and lows, in a special audio and PDF for you. If you'd like to be inspired and know how I transformed my life, take a look at the link in the pinned comment. Your breakthrough is just one story away. Let me ask you something. Are you ready to stop watching life happen and finally start living it? If the answer is yes, hit that subscribe button and join a community built on action, growth, and transformation. This is where dreaming ends and doing begins. Success isn't magic. It isn't luck. It isn't reserved for the chosen few. Success is a choice to do what 99% of people will never do. That's the 1% rule. And if you commit to it, your entire life will change. The rule is simple. If you want the kind of life others only fantasize about, you have to be willing to do what they won't. No special talent, no silver spoon, no secret shortcut. Just the daily decision to step into what's uncomfortable, difficult, and inconvenient, because that's exactly where growth lives. Here's the hard truth. Everyone wants the reward, but few want the work. Everyone wants success, but not the sacrifice. Everyone wants the dream, but not the price. The 99% will drown in excuses. It's too hard, too late, too risky. But the 1%, they choose risk. They push through exhaustion. They wake up before the sun. They show up when it rains, when they're afraid, when it hurts. They do it anyway. Understand this: comfort is the graveyard of dreams. Every breakthrough, every victory, every life-changing moment lives just outside your comfort zone. The 99% will protect that zone like it's treasure. But the 1%, they walk straight into the fire. They know pain is the cost of progress. They know struggle forges strength. And they know failure isn't the end. It's the doorway to the beginning. Think about it. While everybody's sleeping in, the 1% are already on the move. While everybody else is swiping on their phones, the 1% are building their destiny. While everybody else is saying, "I'll get it done tomorrow," the 1% are taking action today. That's why they succeed. Not because they're smarter, better, or more fortunate, but because they get the job done when nobody else will. And here's the thing you have to keep in mind. You don't need to be perfect. You don't need to make giant leaps every day. You just need to be consistent. 1% better each day. That's it. If you make yourself 1% better every single day, by the end of the year you'll be 37 times better than you were when you began. Most individuals do not understand this because they desire quick results. They desire to become heroes overnight from zero. However, the 1% understand that it is the tiny daily habits that bring significant outcomes. So question yourself. What are you going to do that most people are not? Are you going to get up before the sun rises? Are you going to study while everyone else is out partying? Are you going to train when nobody is looking? Are you going to experience failure again and again without quitting? That's what it's all about. That's the 1% rule. Let me share something with you. Discipline trumps motivation every time. Motivation is a spark, but discipline is the flame that continues to burn when the spark fades. The 99% wait to feel like doing it. They wait for the right time, the right mood, the right plan. But the 1%, they do, whether they feel like it or not. They don't wait for the mood. They build the momentum. I'm not going to lie to you. This road is tough. You will be uncomfortable. You will be exhausted. You will experience doubts, setbacks, and failure. But if you persevere, you will succeed. Because most people will give up way before they see results. That's why the 1% rule works. Because most people won't last. Here's a fact. The distinction between success and failure is usually just refusing to give up. The 99% will quit when it becomes difficult. The 1% will continue, even when it seems impossible. They'll take an additional step, make an additional call, put in an additional rep, and that one extra effort. That's where the breakthrough usually occurs. Imagine your dream as ascending a mountain. Everybody begins ascending, but when the air begins to thin and the trail becomes steep, they turn around. They say they've ascended far enough, but the 1%, they continue ascending. They understand the view from the summit is well worth every step, every blister, every bead of sweat. The 1% rule is not just about money or business. It's about all aspects of your life. It's about being the parent who shows up, the friend who listens, the partner who gives the effort. It's about conditioning your body when it's more convenient to just stay on the couch. It's about nourishing your mind with knowledge when it's more convenient to watch brainless television. It's about the choices you make today that your future self will appreciate. You have to stop living for other people's approval. The 99% care too much about what others think. They let fear of judgment keep them from taking action. But the 1%, they understand that other people's opinions don't pay their bills, don't build their dreams, and don't define their worth. And here is the best part. You already possess what it takes to be a 1%. You don't need anyone's approval. You don't need to wait anymore. You only need to make a decision. Decide that you are going to do what other people won't. Decide that you are going to persevere, no matter what. Decide that you are going to work every single day, without exception. The 1% rule is an attitude, an option, and a dedication. It's waking up in the morning, knowing that you are going to do what everyone else doesn't want to do. It's loving the grind. It's enjoying the process as much as the outcome. It's not quitting, even when quitting would be the easiest thing to do. I want you to think of two paths in front of you. One is broad, flat, and busy. Everybody's on it. They're laughing, checking their phones, discussing what they're going to do someday. It's simple. It's secure. You don't need to think hard, and you don't need to work hard. That's the 99% road. The other route, it's tight. The pavement is rough. The mountains are steep. There is no herd here. Indeed, you may not come across anyone for a whole day. The air is thinner, and your legs will begin to burn after only a few minutes of an uphill climb. This is the 1% road, the one everyone else dreads, not because it cannot be done, but because it's not pleasant. You know, the 99% take the comfortable path because it provides them with instant ease. But ease is deceptive. Ease tells you in your ear, stay here, you're okay, you're safe. What it doesn't say to you is that it's gradually taking away your potential, your passion, your life. It's like a cozy blanket that suffocates your dreams. The 1%, they're aware of the reality. They are aware that the tough road, the uncomfortable road, is where the magic occurs. They are aware that each hill they conquer makes them stronger. Each barrier that's forced upon them makes them sharper. Each footstep that they take them brings closer to the life they really desire.